Ladies and gentlemen, if you could make your way back to the main room, we shall be continuing in about 3 minutes. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please take your seats? Ladies and gentlemen, would you please take your seats? Thank you.
Stars are shining out for free. Now you're gone, I only feel the longing start here in my blue heart. Colors of my rainbow fade like the promises you made. There's only blue when I think of you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We're going to make a rapid start on this last session. So it's my great pleasure to turn to the afternoon keynote discussion. Different kind of a format. We've seen loads of presentations. This is going to be a straight-up discussion, and we've cut the length of it down to something a little bit more manageable. So we're aiming to get to the finish line at about 10 to 5. And then there'll be the usual last comments and setup for tonight. So joining me on stage really to mull over what we've talked about in the last 2 days. It will be a wide-ranging discussion. I'm really going to ask the two gentlemen to focus on that which they think is most important and what has taken them, surprised them, and really it will be a different kind of a discussion. So joining me are Jean-Marc JESTIN, the chairman of the executive board of Klépierre, and John Strawn, non-executive director, Intu Properties PLC. We're going to try and pull things together. It's a big task, actually, because we've heard so much, but I'm looking forward to it. So please welcome me, join me in welcoming the two men.
Welcome, John.
As you can imagine, we had a little chat about this because we literally could talk about so many different topics. So they have a vague idea of the, well, more than a vague idea of the outline that we're going to go for. I thought I'd start general, then ask them some specific questions in the middle around business parameters and metrics, and then finish again with a little bit of crystal ball gazing or more general topics. And I wanted really for the first statement to give them the floor to really comment on anything that they have found appealing, important, incendiary. So over to the two gentlemen. Jean-Marc, if we can start with you. We have covered a tremendous ground. What has hit you as being important that we've heard?
So thank you very much for hosting me. It's a great privilege to talk and to you and to practice my English, but John will help me. I have attended most of the meetings we had today, and I think it's incredible the number of changes we are facing. So if we look at the Anglo-Saxons, they always have good acronyms. So we have the GAFA, we have the NATO, but as real estate owners, we have the VUCA. The VUCA, this is more volatility. Volatility, clearly, the world is changing every day. Our share price has decreased by 20%, then yesterday 5% up, 2% up today, so the world is more and more volatile. VUCA U, it's uncertainty. Clearly, the world is less predictable, as we can hear from all the people here, and it's for us and for our retailers. See its complexity. The world is more and more complex, and there is no cookie cutter strategy that we can apply all across the board. And it's something interesting. It's ambiguity. So when you are playing all over Europe, when you are pan-European as we are, you have more and more ambiguity to manage. You think you understand. You think you follow the trend, or you are ahead of the trends, but you can misread the rules, and that's where the complexity is. So our retailers and ourselves, we have to face what we call the VUCA, which is the US Army terminology for the new world.
John, Jean-Marc has hit on really what strikes me as being the key themes that were talked about in the CEO lunch. Change, ambiguity, acceleration of change, wondering if we're on the right track, coping with change. How do you see that?
To give me time to think of an answer, do you mind if I just say something else?
Yes,
first?
go for a general comment.
Because I think this is quite amazing. My first thought when Bill Kissler asked Jean-Marc and me to do the last slot this afternoon, I thought maybe I'd upset him. Maybe it was something I'd said at a board meeting and this was a punishment. But this is fantastic. A full room right to the end of the conference. That's great. Thank you very much. I think the The two themes I would like to focus on, as you say, there's been so much great content, but the two things that I'll particularly take away, which have been debated, I think, very well. The first, and I know it's a much used word in the context of shopping centres and retail destinations, but experiential retail, and particularly the relevance of leisure, cinemas, other leisure, and food and beverage, restaurants. Most of the intu development program in the UK is about adding new restaurants, new formats, cinemas, and leisure. The first Nickelodeon at Lakeside, for example. And in our Spanish program, leisure is a huge element in the new projects. So I think that for me has been a great theme to follow and listen to experts discussing. And also to have the joint research that JLL has kindly produced with ICSC. I think the second area, obviously the whole digital area, online retail and so on, but I'd particularly focus on the value of data. All the major owners are collecting a lot of data. Perhaps actually the collection of data is not their primary objective at the moment. It's setting up a transactional website. It's trying to get to know the customers and so on. But at the end of all this, we will have a huge amount of data. And I think the challenge for us all is how to use that data to make our shopping space more productive and more valuable for the retailers.
Well, let me just throw that to you, Jean-Marc, because those are two big areas, experiential retail, the rise of that, and then the rise of big data. Do you see it the same way as John?
Yes, I think it's well summarized. I think if we look at the relation we have with retailers, it's no longer just discussing about the square meters, the terms and conditions. It's also to have a more holistic approach of what are we going to do together. I think the shopping center, this is clearly the marketplace. The difference between shopping centers and high street is that in shopping centers, the retail offer is widespread, and you can gather forces to be more efficient in marketing your retail offer in the catchment area. So it's very basic, but that's what we are doing. That's probably where we have lost a little bit. We are a little bit lost in translation with the retailers, because we have been so successful over the last 2 decades that during easy times you don't ask the questions again. Today the question is how technology can help not only the owners but the community of the retailers in a shopping mall to be more efficient in marketing the shopping centers in the catchment area. And today the door is slightly open with retailers to share data. It's not an easy job because they have, we own the infrastructure, they have the data, they have their loyalty system and program with their clients, and they are not very encouraged today to share. And I think where the shopping center owner can do something is to neutrally convince the retailers to gather forces so that the data can be used to the benefit of the whole retailer community. And we are at the very beginning of it, because most of the technology stuff we are doing at intu, Klépierre, and the others are most of the time is test and learn. Okay, we have website, but when you look at shopping centers, you have 1 million people visiting your website, while you have 16 or 20 million visiting the center. You have mobile apps, but there are more gadgets. They are not really servicing today. They are adding services, but they are not game changer. So I think the game change will come from the capacity to convince the retailers to open the data so that we can bring the infrastructure, put technology into the infrastructure so that they can know what they have and what the others have, without competing too much. That's, I think, one of the challenge, and we are at the very, very beginning of it, and it has not yet started, I would say.
Okay. I'd like to take both of you back to comments that Amlan Roy made at the beginning, and then join that with a question that Howard got right at the end of yesterday. So this is the idea. Amlan was clear that there were two big groups that were becoming more powerful in terms of segments to be marketed to. The super old, above 80, living longer, that whole longevity piece, and then obviously the millennials. But the question that was, I think, well put to Howard at the end of his presentation was the gentleman that said, look, I don't, in any of the videos, see anyone over the age of 35 or 40. So the question really is, do you see those as two big segments? And if you do, have we underplayed the older generation?
Well, I think demographic is our retailer business is a function of demographic and GDP growth, and our business is a function of our retailer business. So we are always about demographics. Okay, so I don't want to be too nasty, but people look like they discover generations. Okay, I don't look like my father, probably physically yes, but I don't behave like he was behaving. So I think retail has always been adapting to a new generation. I think probably what is changing is the pace of change, which is quicker and quicker, and where our retailers, they have to adapt themselves quicker. And this has a huge consequence on the cost associated to that. I think we are all the changes we are facing today, not us but our retailers, they have a significant cost associated to it. So the logistics, the IT system, the digital platform, and also investing into the stores. So I think and this comes from the fact that the people want more changes on a regular basis. So demographic is not new, it's just probably going quicker. I think basically when we look at shopping centers, you are right, we never see on advertisement old people. They have most of the purchase power, but they are not, but as far as we do, we try to target all the segments of the populations. I think we talk a lot about the millennials, but there is a new generation after, which are the digital native, and it's interesting to see that they have a different mindset. They are more sustainable oriented. They are more NATU than GAFA. They are more Netflix, Airbnb than Amazon, and I think it would be interesting to see how we will have to adapt also to this new generation which is coming soon. So I think our business has always been full of opportunities, and that's why it's a funny and exciting business, is that it's changing all the time, and it has always been like this, I think.
Well, I agree with Jean-Marc. I don't think we intentionally try to exclude any segment of the population. It's certainly wrong to assume that it's only the millennials who are digitally aware and buying online. The statistics tell you quite the opposite. It's the older customer that does more buying online. So that's worth remembering. But the way that you target your shopping mall is, of course, in part dependent on the way you market that particular centre and the brand that centre represents. But primarily, it's about the mix that you curate. The blend of retail and F&B offers is the way that you appeal to the local demographic. And obviously it varies. I mean, if you compare, let's say, the Trafford Centre, northwest of Manchester, with Westfield London, you will see a different age range in those two centres. They'll be shopping at different times of the day, more or less evening and so on. So I think it's difficult to generalise.
Just before we move to a little bit more of a granular discussion, I'd like to ask you the two classic sort of business school questions. Where do you see the opportunities right now? What are you bullish on, be it segments, geographies, cities? What's the opportunity? Do you want to go first on this one, John?
Well, it's not the only opportunity, but I come back to leisure and entertainment and food and beverage. And that's surely the area that we're all concentrating on most. It's where we're investing most. And of course, that's aimed at the full age range. You know, we're beginning to talk about and think about retail resorts. Now, I know you've been familiar with West Edmonton, which has been there for several decades now, but it's really that concept that we're trying to develop, the combination of entertainment, leisure, food and beverage, and retail, particularly in southern Spain, which has obvious attractions. Extending the dwell time, making it a family event, appealing to all ages.
And Jean-Marc, opportunities for you?
I think like a good pessimistic guy, I always see opportunities behind challenges. I think when we look at the number of challenges we have, there are opportunities to as long as we fight for it. So I don't want to make the list of all the challenges because we have heard a lot about the challenges that are regarding the shopping center product itself, okay, and the retailer's business model. But we, as shopping center owners, when we have 22 billion and you have also a lot of billions of assets, so you need to look at the whole environment, and it's not only a question of what is the right product. We have a political risk, we have regulation risk, we have tax risk, we have sustainable challenges for our retailers and for us. So I think for each and every items where the uncertainty and the volatility is higher, we need to take advantage of this to transform our business. And to a certain extent, this is a good time. We have been for decades it has been too easy. And it came to a point that it has been boring. So when you enter into a shopping center, it's the same, it's boring, same brands, everything is the same. So I would say we are facing challenges so that we take advantage of the capacity to change the tenant mix today, to bring new services, new health, beauty, organic food, leisure, restaurants, medical centers. I think the shopping center future is to be probably back to the roots of the shopping centers, so to be the meeting place, the favorite meeting place, as Corio was saying before, of the community where we can revigorate the whole network and the community. And I think it's not only leisure and restaurants, it's everything that participate to the community. So it's medical center, health, yoga courses, sports, everything that, and I think it's a very exciting time. 10 years ago, we were wondering H&M or Zara or H&M or whatever, or CNA. And today we have opportunities, so I think it's great.
So if I can ask you to sharpen things up a little bit, because there must be something that you're concerned about. What are the one or two risks that you think really are out there?
I think you could call what Jean-Marc has been talking about innovation. And together with the retailers, to be successful, you need to be innovating all the time. And that's not just a matter of refreshing them all. It's about, as I say, curating the mix. There's so much happening out there, but I think something a lot of us kind of forget is that when we invest, say, 100 million in a refresh or an extension or whatever, you'll find retailers who are investing 50 million. You know, for every €2 you invest, there's a retailer investing €1 in their latest format, their latest thinking, their latest branding.
If I can jump in, is the risk in getting that call wrong, in backing the wrong disruptive technology, in not being bold enough, in diverging from the retailers so that you're spending money in two different directions? Are you able to kind of zoom in on the risk and say what is it that keeps you up at night?
some other things do, but this doesn't.
Okay.
But there's always a risk. There has always been a risk of failure on the part of your occupiers. And in particular, new brands that come along. You know, I won't name the obvious examples recently, but you know, we're used to seeing some brands fail. You have to accept that, and you know, you're recycling that real estate to find new and successful brands each time. So there is a risk there. But you know, if you look at the occupancy rates, I'm guessing Klépierre's is even higher than Intu's. Your occupancy rate is what, 99% or something?
It's super high.
Yeah, we're about 97.
Right.
No, I think
97.2.
Okay, we're about
Yeah,
97. Quite frankly, you need that 2 or 3%. You know, to be churning the space, bringing new brands and new ideas in. So there's no sign of demand falling away for the bricks and mortar.
Okay, maybe this might be the easiest question, but certainly the most factual. How do you see the investment and business landscape right now? Because as you opened up by saying, Jean-Marc, very changeable.
Yeah, the investment is super hot. The investment market is super hot. It's, it makes our life very difficult. I think we are fighting for a good risk-reward for a greenfield project, and it's more and more difficult. I think, and for investment opportunities, the money is so hot that it makes our life very difficult. I think we need to be always very careful as a long-term owner not to buy at crazy price. So I think this is it today. I am a true believer in the consolidation of the business. I think we talk a lot about retail, but we are doing real estate. So that's what I'm doing every day. So I try to understand, and I meet my clients almost every week, and I try to satisfy their needs, because that's probably what has changed. We don't do shopping centers and we ask them to come. We do shopping centers according to our retailers' needs. But the investment market for us, it's definitively difficult. So we have hopefully a pan-European footprint. I think this is the best edge against volatility. When we look at the few risks, I don't want to make the long list, because this is when you have so many billions, you have to be very careful. But I will raise only a few political. I think that no need to talk a lot about the Brexit or the Frexit or the French election. But we have behind that big political risk, we have also new regulations. City of Oslo will be car-free in the next few years. So this will have also the transportation revolution will have an impact. I think the sustainable revolution for our retailers and for us will have an impact. You know that when you discuss with H&M and Zara, they don't have enough cotton in the world to continue growing like they grow today. So they need to find new textile for the garments, and to do something else. So I think we are new future revolutions to come, which are the source of new opportunities for the business. So the challenges are even, I think, bigger than what we have discussed today, because we only discuss about the product and the way we can attract people into the malls. But I think there are also big challenges for us and opportunities.
Good. I'd like to get to some questions, but just a very last quick question. We didn't actually answer this at lunch. Are you an optimist or a pessimist on a scale of 1 to 10?
I'd rather not put a number on it, but I'm
Okay,
an optimist.
an optimist. Jean-Marc?
I'm by nature probably a little bit pessimistic, so I would say optimistic, but I would say a personal 5. Okay, but on the business, I'm very optimistic. I think when you discuss with the retailers, there are a lot of opportunities. It's amazing to see how many of them are reinvesting into their stores, how many of them are catching up with the digital proposals they do to their clients. And I think we have to be very optimistic. We have to be very careful on the number of square meters, because nobody here can say we will have more retail square meters in the next 5 or 10 years, except probably a few of us. So we'll have less, it will be more productive, it will be more attractive, it will be different. So that's
I will put a
big
number
change.
on it.
Go.
I'm somewhere around 6 or 7.
Okay.
And I think in saying that, I'm thinking about probably one of the major risks that we both have to address, and that's market risk.
Right.
It's where rental returns are going and where cap rates are.
Yeah.
And I think at the moment you need to be cautious, but generally the market is looking pretty solid.
Good. Okay. We just have time for a couple of questions. Hopefully the mics are roving around. So can I ask for the mics to come out? And do we have anyone that's got a question? We've got a question right at the front here. Thank you.
Ouch.
Oh.
Wasn't me falling off the stage.
Hi, my question is, where are you taking insight from or trends globally for future developments?
Sorry, where?
Where are you finding inspiration from for future developments in terms of what your shopping centers are offering? Are you looking into the North America, Asia, the Middle East? Are you starting to see more of those trends come to life in your schemes, or looking forward to the future?
That's a really good question. I'll start by saying where we are doing things, and geographically our markets are UK, Spain and India. We have a relatively small part of our business, but nonetheless a 3 mall business in India. So obviously we look at those 3 markets very carefully, but where to go for inspiration? I think you have to be aware of what's going on in all parts of the world. I mean, I guess we've all traveled to Mall of Scandinavia, just to pick one example. I don't think I would particularly point to any one geography where, we're expecting to learn. It's a global business, and I think you look at the best around the world.
Anyone else? Jean-Marc, anything to add to that last question? Where do you look for inspiration? Where?
No, I would say everywhere. It's totally different. If you do a greenfield, you have to look around and take the best benchmark you can and try to do it right. I think when you are a pan-European from Norway to Portugal, Spain, Czech Republic, Poland, and everything, so you need to adapt yourself to the markets. As I said at the beginning, there is no cookie cutter strategy where we can say this is it. So I think take a Westfield, probably you can't do a Westfield everywhere. So I think London, I think we have to be very careful in not benchmarking us to something which is not worse for the market. I think that our business is much more complicated than taking inspiration for greenfield project. It's more for what we have. So we have 22 billion of assets. They have been built between 1973 and 2007. Okay, so we have a long range of very different type of shopping center. Some are city center, some are suburban, some are whatever. And I think one of the big challenge for inspiration is when we do renovation, because our industry is very capex intensive. So what is the return when you do refurbishment of an existing shopping center? And that's where we need to look at inspiration, at different type of inspiration of very smart architects that are doing great jobs a little bit all over the places. Can be in the US, because they had also to transform a lot of shopping centers. But in the UK, I have seen also some fantastic refurbishment.
Well, just a final thought. We've not. I think this is something to look forward to. Incidentally, we haven't talked much about how shopping malls can participate in the growth of online retail. Click and collect has been covered earlier on. But the 2 things I'm looking forward to, and they're kind of interlinked, but in terms of leasing and creating a more interesting mix in the malls, one is the development of showcasing. Again, not a totally new thing. You know, we've had people like Ferrari and Lotus in the high streets and that sort of thing. But we've leased quite a few units to Tesla. They're great looking stores. They're mostly visited by lady customers who I'm told actually make the important decisions, like, you know, buying a motor car. But the presentation of those Tesla stores is very inviting, very welcoming, and I think we'll see more showcasing. And coupled with some of the pure play online retailers beginning to look at bricks and mortar as an extension of their business. I have a personal view that it is inevitable that successful pure play retailers will turn to bricks and mortar. They are bound to, because they'll see it's part of their market that they're not covering.
I'm going to just suggest that we
So
leave
two
it there,
things to
John.
look
Two
forward
things
to.
to look forward to. We have covered so much. Thank you for being patient. A big thank you to John and JEAN-MARC. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're now moving towards the finish line of the conference. Thank you so much for staying with us. I'm not really going to try and recap everything that you've heard. There's been so much from Shinola to student hotels. Even just talking today, we've had that panel discussion on technology, KPIs, dashboards, Simon Liss with his merged retail. We had places as magnets, and we've had a great ending now covering a lot of things. But to close the conference, I'd like to ask Bill to come back up and make some final remarks, and I'll see you at the awards dinner tonight. There will be a feedback form coming to you online tomorrow. Thanks very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Well,